We're all used to fighting fires, right? These information crises that just blow up and force us to react. But what if you could see the smoke? What if you could actually pick up on the signals of a crisis that's building long before it ever explodes? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
This quote, this really hits the nail on the head. In the world we live in now, that luxury of time we used to have, time to think, to analyze, to build a strategy, it's pretty much gone. Things don't just unfold anymore, they detonate.
And you can really see the difference here. Back in the 90s, a crisis was a slow burn. You had weeks, maybe even months, to figure out what was going on and how to respond. You had time. Fast forward to today, and a crisis is a flash fire. It can ignite and spread across the globe in just a matter of hours. That whole window for analysis, it's just gone. So what this really means is that our old playbook, the way we used to handle these things, it's totally obsolete. Think about it. A narrative can pop up in one language, and in less than 24 hours, it's been twisted and reframed in 5 other languages. By the time a company or an organization finally gets through its own internal review process, the world has already moved on. The story's over. This brings us to the tools we're currently using. And honestly, it's like we're trying to fight these massive flash fires with buckets of water. All our traditional tools, the crisis PR firms, the analysts, the fact checkers, they're basically firefighters. And don't get me wrong, firefighters are absolutely essential, but they only show up after the fire has already started. When you break it down, you start to see this really critical pattern. Strategic comms, analysts, fact checkers, they are all masters of the post-crisis response. But look at what they consistently miss, all the signals that happen before the crisis. By their very design, they are completely reactive. Okay, so if firefighting isn't enough, then what is? Well, maybe we need a totally different kind of tool. Maybe we don't need another firefighter. Maybe what we really need is a smoke detector. A diagnostic tool that can actually sense those invisible signals, the different kinds of smoke, before the fire ever has a chance to break out. And here's a look at how that smoke detector, this early warning system, or EWS, actually works. It's a 6-step process that gets you from raw data to a real diagnosis. It starts by gathering content from all over, in multiple languages, in real time. Then it breaks that content down across 7 different dimensions. It compares all those signals against what's considered normal. And if something crosses a critical line, it triggers a warning, figures out the cause, and alerts the people who need to know, giving them clear, actionable intelligence. Now, this is really the heart of the whole system. The idea is that a crisis isn't just one big thing. It has a complex structure. So you can think of it like seeing 7 different kinds of smoke. Each type of smoke tells you something unique about the kind of fire that might be on its way. The system measures 7 distinct signals. And the key word here is independent. This isn't about mashing everything together into one big, vague risk score. No, this is about getting a multifaceted view, a much, much richer picture of what's actually going on. So, here they are, the 7 dimensions the system keeps an eye on. It's everything from polarization and manipulation to how fast a story is spreading. But I want to zoom in on 3 that are especially interesting. The CIB score, something called temporal disjunction, and the language-specific baseline. First up, the CIB score. This is pretty fascinating. It measures something called coordinated inauthentic behavior. Basically, this is how the system tells the difference between a real organic grassroots movement and a totally manufactured algorithmic mob. It looks at how coordinated the activity is, how fake the accounts seem, and whether there's a clear strategic purpose behind it all. Okay, this next one, temporal disjunction, might just be the most powerful, unique thing this system measures. It pinpoints when a story is technically true, fact by fact, but the timing is dangerously off. For example, a narrative could be way ahead of reality, creating a false impression. Or the opposite. Reality has already changed, but the story people are telling hasn't caught up yet, which could mean an asset is being completely mispriced. Your standard fact check will totally miss this, but this is often the most dangerous kind of distortion there is. This right here is another huge deal. Most monitoring tools out there are really English-focused. This system understands that culture and language are absolutely critical context. What's considered a normal level of polarization in Korean media is wildly different from English media, right? So, by keeping a separate 90-day baseline for every language, the system avoids all those false alarms and actually catches signals that other tools would completely overlook. So, the system detects all these complex signals, but detection is really only half the battle. The whole point, the real goal, is to turn all that data into faster, smarter decisions for leaders who are under an incredible amount of pressure. And it's really important to get this part right. A tool like this isn't here to replace human experts, not at all. It's a force multiplier. It does the heavy lifting on the data side to provide structured intelligence so that people can do what we do best, use our judgment, build relationships, and make that final critical call. And this is the bottom line. Where traditional analysis might take days to put together a report, this system can deliver an actionable brief in under 5 minutes. When your window to make a decision has shrunk from days to just a few hours, that kind of speed isn't just a nice to have, it's everything. This all leads to a really powerful strategic way of thinking. A lot of the information threats we're seeing these days aren't random, they're engineered. They are built on top of sophisticated infrastructure. So the only way you can really counter that effectively is with an equally sophisticated structured defense. You have to fight infrastructure with infrastructure. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. For years and years, crisis management has always been about reacting to the fire. But what if that whole approach is wrong? What if the future isn't about fighting the crisis at all, but about responding directly to its cause, long before you even see a single flame?